Hey everyone, it's Andrew here. Today I wanted to go over some tactics puzzles that I was playing on chess.com. This first one is a really interesting endgame study, and I wanted to use this one as inspiration to have a look at some more endgame puzzles. So today's theme is looking at endgames in particular. So this first one is a really interesting puzzle. As you can see here, it looks as though white is not going to be able to win. If he tries this simple continuation a4, you'll notice that the black king is able to hunt down the white pawn from progressing on a8. So you'll see here that black will be able to win this in that scenario. So this is all to do with the principle known as the pawn and the box. So in this position you'll see, if we mapped up a box like so, it looks, if the black king is outside of the box, he'll be unable to capture the white pawn. However, on black's next move, you'll see here that now the black king is within the box. So the white pawn will be captured by the black king. So how does white stop this? Well, I'll give you 5 seconds and maybe you can spot the brilliant move that white can play here. So the tactic here is something known as interference, and here white can play the amazing move pawn to d5. Now if black was to ignore this by playing, let's say, king to e4, then you'll see here that this pawn will be able to run down here, the king will not be able to capture it, and this would be an easy win for white. So in this position black has to take with the pawn. Now I wonder if you can notice or see if the white pawn will be able to promote. So as you can see here, if we go through now our process, you'll notice that the black king will be unable to capture the white pawn. And this is all to do with the fact that the black king cannot capture its own pawn. So this pawn gets in the way of the diagonal for the box exercise. So it looks as though the king can capture, but actually, as you can see here, the king can't go through its own pawn, and so has to go around like so. So on the next move, when the pawn goes here, you'll notice now that the black king is no longer inside the pawn box. So a really good puzzle, and a really good and interesting way of exploring the pawn and box, and also looking into interference as well. So this next puzzle explores how to defend in a king and pawn endgame. So the general rule of thumb in king and pawn endgames, as long as the white king is sat in front, or at least one square in front of its white pawn, it should be a win for white. Although this all depends, as long as this pawn is not on the A or H file. So that's the only conditions where that wouldn't win. So in this position, it's black to play and to find a draw. I wonder if you can spot the really strong move that black can play. So there's only 2 moves that black can play in this position. If he plays the move b8, then this loses, since now the king can take the pawn, and here whatever black does, white will be able to gain opposition. If he comes to a8, then the king can go to b6, and after the king comes back to b8, this pawn will move forward, and wherever this black king moves, the white king will be able to advance onto the 7th rank and shepherd the pawn in. So if it came to c8, the king would come to a7, and now this black king can no longer access these squares. If it came to c7, this would be a check. If it came back to c8, check again, and you'll see here that this would be an easy win for white. So we can see here that b8 doesn't work, so the only other move that black can play is a5, and this in fact draws the position. So obviously if white ignores this pawn move and let's say maybe play something like b5, this would of course lose, as this white king cannot catch up with this pawn now. So that doesn't work. So the white king has to capture on a5. But here, the black king is able to defend the position after the move a7. And you'll see here, if the white king moves, the black king can maintain opposition between itself and its opposite king. So if it came to a5, you'll notice here that white is unable to progress in this position. If it came over here as well, then now the white king is just going to be moving backwards. So it won't be able to make any progress. So here, the white king might try to come to c4 and then push forward this pawn. But again, the black king will maintain opposition. And now after b5, as we explored at the beginning of this video, because the pawn is now in front of the king, this will now be a draw. All the black king has to do is stay on the queening square, or try to stay on the queening square of the white pawn, and he'll be able to draw this position. So I'll just show you some examples. Let's say the pawn comes back to b7, king comes to c5. Now we've maintained opposition again. This pawn moves forward, king comes back, king goes here again. Now again we go back to b8, king to c6, and again we maintain the opposition once more. Very quickly, I just want to quickly show you, if the black king is not careful, and instead of going to after this thing, hold on. If it came to if it came to c8, actually the white king will be able to win in this position. The white pieces will be able to win, I should say, because now the white king gains opposition against the black king, and now black is losing in this position. So it just needs to be a little bit careful that he's able to maintain the opposition. So here coming to b7, and then going to b8 instead of going to c8. So just keep that in mind. So after b5, b8, king comes here, c8, and now whatever white plays, he won't be able to make progress. So if he plays b7, after king b8, white will have to accept the draw, since b6 is now a stalemate. Also, if he moves away as well, then this pawn gets captured. So this will be a draw in this position. So really interesting tactic. So exploring the ideas of opposition, and then also how to draw in certain king and pawn endgames. So I think a really good puzzle. I was unable to do it, but I hope you guys were able to solve it yourself on your first try. So this is another position that I had in one of my other tactics puzzles. It's white to move and win. So at first sight in this position, it looks as though white cannot win at all. And certainly when I was going through some of the positions, it just looked as though white would not be able to queen before the black pawn, and there'd be no way in which white would be able to get a 1 point. But after closer inspection, I noticed that there was in fact a really strong move for white. But let's explore the moves that doesn't work for white first. So the first idea I had is, what if I just pushed on h7? Well, this in fact would be losing. So after queen promotes, and let's say the knight captures on f1, rook captures, and now this king has to move away, and this pawn will be captured quite easily. You'll see here the rook can just come around and capture the pawn. So that doesn't work. If the white king moves away, then again this queen will just come around and easily win for black. And if maybe, let's say, instead of pushing, the white king just moves away straight away, again this would just lose, since this black rook will just come out. It's pretty much the same position that we just saw earlier. So white has an excellent move here, and that's the move knight to f1. So in this position, white wins because after rook captures on f1, you'll notice that this rook has to take an extra move to get around the pawn. So after pawn to h7, king to a1, and you'll see here that this pawn would promote, and this would be in fact checkmate. Moreover, if let's say the black rook tried to go over here, you'll notice that this king can't move due to the power of opposition. So actually this would just be winning and the king can't move out the way. So really interesting tactic there. So using the ideas of a blockading knight in endgames to be able to win the position, and also I guess tempo as well. So I hope you enjoy these videos. I hope these endgame puzzles were as interesting enough for you as they were for me. If you have any interesting endgame puzzles that you want to share with me, let me know, and I will have a look at them maybe and perhaps do some more videos like this in the future. I hope you enjoyed this. This is Andrew signing out.